A company doesn't do much unless there are people to run it.
To start, write down the names of all the people who will own part of the business. These are people who will be legally tied to you for years, and business partnerships are a lot like marriage, until exit do us part.
Owners of a for-profit get all the benefits of dividends, decision-making power, and any upside to selling the business. A not-for-profit company generally exists for the benefit of its members, who also have decision-making power and may benefit from the company's activities, but they have no ownership of its actual assets. But any money or guarantees they provide are at risk if the company gets into financial trouble, and the directors that they appoint are responsible for any legal issues the company might face. And of course, they're responsible for tax and superannuation. Company directors are personally responsible for ensuring the right amount of tax and super is paid and at the right time. Once we know who's going to be legally tied to the business, we need to reach a consensus about how much value each person is bringing. We need to figure out the value that person has brought in the past and set expectations for the future.
For example, if 4 people all invest $10,000 and spend 10 hours a week working together, that's nice and easy, 25% equity each. If one person invests $100,000 but no time, and a second person does a 40-hour week for an entire year, and we value that at $100,000, that's 50% each.
This is a difficult conversation to have because we're evaluating how much a person's time is worth. It's a sticky conversation, but it's worth having earlier rather than later. We could also allocate value based on contribution.
For example, a software developer might bring, say, a technical system, while a subject matter expert brings their knowledge and networks. They might agree that one component makes up 70% of the business, while the other makes up 30%. We should also look to the future. This gets a bit complex. So let's say one person in the team agrees to spend 10 hours a week on the business at a rate of $25 an hour for a 50-week year, with 2 weeks off for Christmas. That's $25 an hour times 500 hours of work over the year, or 12.5K.
Another way to look at co-founder equity is the way startups do, with sweat equity investing. There are a few calculators you can use for this, which we've linked to on our site.
Now, these ideas are mostly built for high-growth tech startups, which isn't a model that works for every business, but there are a few lessons from that world that we can use in the social impact sector. Here are a few kind of loose guidelines. 1, don't do an equal split. Someone has to be the boss. So if you're thinking 50-50 or thirds because it's fair, you're probably not being realistic about what's involved in truly running a business or the responsibilities of leadership. Now, another school of thought says that a 50-50 split between 2 founders is actually the best model for the long haul. This is the real kind of going to war together thinking. Okay, guideline 2. Ideas matter a bit, execution matters a lot. Working full-time is actually much more valuable hour by hour than a part-time investment. Number 3, domain expertise. Contacts and the ability to raise capital or get customers is super important and generally earns more equity. Okay, number 4, vesting is kind of a fancy startup word for the process of earning equity over time. So if 2 founders own 50% each, and the vesting period is, say, 5 years, then founders will earn 10% of that 50% every year. Vesting also has this idea of a cliff, which is the minimum period founders need to stay involved to earn anything. So if a founder bails 6 months into the project, they don't earn any equity at all. A common startup vesting schedule is 4 years with a 1-year cliff. Here's an example. Your startup has 3 founders, one of which is the leader with 40% equity, and then 2 other people with 30% each. Against a 4-year vesting schedule, the leader would earn 10% for each year they work on the project, and the other 2 would earn 7.55% each year, so that after 4 years, all the equity is paid out. If a founder doesn't stick around for the agreed vesting period, their remaining equity is split amongst the other founders. Now, this stuff gets super complicated really quickly, and smarter people than us have written some great articles on this, so we'll link to some resources below.
Now, once you've figured out what percentage each person will get and any vesting, we can distribute the shares. When you make a business, you can create as many shares as you want. 120 is a nice number because it's easily divisible.
So a 60-40 split between 2 people would be 72 shares for the first person and 48 for the second. An equal third split is easy, 40 shares each. Now, you can't have half shares, so make sure that your total share number splits up nicely between everyone.
Next, we have to decide what kind of shares each person has. The three main kinds of shares are ordinary shares, preference shares, and non-voting shares. Ordinary shares are the most common shares. They allow the holder to vote, receive dividends, and a distribution of the assets when the company is wound up. Preference shares are just like ordinary shares, except they can provide the holder with a preferential dividend, or more commonly, with the right to receive assets in the winding up of a company in preference to the other shareholders. Non-voting shares simply mean that the holder does not have any say in the decisions of the company, but they are still eligible for dividends and a distribution of the assets on winding up. Now, in small business, especially your first one, it's simplest and most common to give everyone ordinary shares. Next, we'll select who will run the business day to day and note them down as directors.
In general, you want to match control and ownership. Anyone with more than 20% of the total shares should probably be a director.
Being a director means you'll have some legal responsibilities. So we'll need to get information about each director, because our lawyer or accountant will want to know this stuff later on. Now, if you're concerned about your responsibilities, there is a lot of information on the ASIC website, or you could always talk to a lawyer. However you do it, come to a consensus as a group, and take the time to have multiple conversations and get it right. The most important thing to remember is that you should have uncomfortable conversations early and not later. There's no right or wrong way to do this. As long as everyone feels comfortable, or at least equally uncomfortable, then you've had the right kind of conversation.
Yeah!